On a breeding end of things, has breeding changed much in the 30 odd years that you've been training? Does it take more research, or are different crosses working maybe that didn't 20 years ago?
I don't know so much about the crosses, but it has changed a lot. Probably the biggest factor was the stallion standing, with the income from them being tax-free for so many years. It enabled Vincent O'Brien to hold on to some of the good colts that he trained, that they didn't have to be sold to America. And as soon as they kept Derby winners and good milers, things began to look up a lot. So, and then of course Sheikh Mohammed coming in with his big investment both in the farms and in his broodmare band, and in latter years then his stallions, excuse me, has made a big difference to the quality of horse being bred in Ireland.
You mentioned Sheikh Mohammed. Obviously you've had links with him in recent seasons. How did it all come about? When was it with New Approach, because Princess Haya obviously bought half of him, or whatever the deal was, or was it beforehand? How did the whole link with Mr. Sheikh Mohammed come about?
Well, it went back nearly 20 years ago. I bought a horse at the sales in Goffs, and Michael Goodbody was supposed to buy him, and he was late for the sale, and I got him anyway, and he was a full brother to Park Appeal, and who I had trained her for Paddy Burns, and she won the Cheveley Park. And anyway, I bought the full brother, and Michael Goodbody arrived anyway and told me that he was late to buy him. So I took a modest profit on him, on condition that he gave me the horse to train. And of course the horse was for Maktoum Al Maktoum, who was Sheikh Mohammed's, the ruler of Dubai at the time, and Sheikh Mohammed's older brother. And over the years then, I had some good horses for him. The best probably would have been our Oaks winning filly, and many more good winners as well for him. And we had a very good relationship. And unfortunately then he died, and when he died, Sheikh Mohammed took over his horses, and that's how Sheikh Mohammed came to me. So when New Approach came along then, John Ferguson phoned me and asked if I'd be interested in selling him. So at that stage I only owned half of New Approach, and Seamus Burns owned the other half. And anyway, make a long story short, I saw a lot of potential in the horse, and I wasn't keen to sell at that stage, but Seamus Burns sold his half to Sheikh Mohammed. And then after he won the Dewhurst Stakes, Sheikh Mohammed bought my half. So that's how all that came about. And generously he left him with me to train him, and the following year then he was the top 3-year-old.
And was it a similar situation with the Dawn Approach deal? Because obviously he would have raced in Jackie's colours early on. Was it after Royal Ascot that something was done?
Yeah, he bought 51% of him after Ascot, and that's the way the ownership is at the present time. And
from a trainer to owner point of view, relationship, how is he to deal with? Obviously he's an awful lot of people working for him. Would you get to deal with him much?
Yeah, well, I'd meet him at the races when he's running, and in between then I talked to Simon Crisford and John Ferguson and Joe Osborne in Kildangan, and we have a very good working relationship, and they know that my goal is the same as theirs. So you know, there isn't any great problem about it, provided we have the horse.
And as most trainers would probably agree, they let you train the horse, and that's probably the way it should be done.
I'm not saying that it should be done, but that's the way that the relationship works with them. That they leave all that to me.
And you were at the start of the Sheikh Mohammed story. You mentioned Jet Ski Lady, who won the Oaks. It was around the same time you had San Javit as well. That was a nice. That was a purple patch for you when things were going well around. That would have been within a space of a few years. Those
yeah,
two
the
horses.
early 90s. Yeah. Sanjavit's probably to this day the best horse that I've trained. And when they revised the international ratings there recently, I think he's in at number 7 or 8. So I think before that, I don't think it was ever realised that, wasn't generally realised that he was as good as he was. Like when you get a horse that won the Irish Derby the way he won it, he had to be top drawer. And then he went on to Ascot and won the King George, and he was never out of a canter. And the horse that was second to him won the Japan Cup and came back and won the King George the following year. So obviously the form of the race worked out very well. Unfortunately then, when we got to the Arc, the ground, it rained the night before and the ground turned soft and he couldn't handle soft ground. And he was retired then after that, but he was a really top 3-year-old. For me, like, he was up there, he was in the Seabird class.
And that Irish Derby win when he hammered Dr. Devious, I think he was a record-winning distance for an Irish Derby. To beat the Epsom champion, I think he'd finished 3rd behind Dr. Devious at Epsom. Would that rank as one of the all-time great days for yourself?
Well, it was a huge day for me and for Irish racing, because at that time the English trainers had been coming over to Ireland and they were winning everything. And no Irish trainer had won the Irish Derby since Law Society for Vincent O'Brien. And you know, it was a big thing to wrest that one back again. And he didn't just win it, like, he broke the track record, and I'd say it'll stand for a long time. And I don't remember the number of lengths, but he won it very easily anyway.
And I remember that day, it had been in today's society or today's times, it had been a near record crowd. That day at the Curry you couldn't move. Why is it the fact that people aren't going racing anymore? It can't be the calibre of horse, because we've had superstars in recent seasons. Why is it a case that not that long ago people were turning out in their droves for such a big race?
I'd say television has a lot to do with it, and also competition from other sports. And of course at the present time then money isn't all that plentiful, so people are more careful, but it's holding up quite well though. And I think, you know, on the big days that people will be back again.
Are you pleased where Irish racing is at the moment? Are you pleased with how it's going?
Well, I think that's the prize money has taken a big hit in the last couple of years, and I suppose that's fairly understandable, but that could have been avoided if the Department of Finance had got their act together and done something about the internet betting. You know, there's a lot of money been missed there, and it's not just missed for racing, but it's been missed for the economy as well. So if they can get their act together and get that done and get prize money back to the levels that it was at a couple of years ago, I think racing will continue to thrive, and the jobs of 20,000 people and the prestige of Irish racing will be secured.
Because there has been promises that this tax is going to be implemented, and yet it still hasn't been done. Are you hopeful that it will be done?
Well, I can't be hopeful, but I think if the mandarins and finance were a bit more energetic and had the national interests more at heart, something should be happening about it. And if and when it does, it will make a huge difference, as I said, both to the employment situation and to the prestige of the sport of racing in Ireland. I mean, we don't have too many sporting situations where we can, you know, send a team, whether it's 1 or 2 horses or whatever, abroad and be reasonably confident that they'll come back with the goods. It doesn't happen in too many other sports. And I think on an international basis, only boxing, I think, measures up to the performance of Irish trainers abroad. And so that has to be worth something to the country. And also then the fact that the 20,000 jobs in racing are in by and large in the rural areas where there isn't an awful lot of employment. I mean, take my own case, I have 102 people employed, and all of them are in areas where there isn't another employer in a 5-mile radius. So, you know, my little operation means a lot in the local areas where I have it located. And that's at risk as long as the mandarins in finance drag their heels and don't do something about the internet betting.
Because it is a sport we excel in. Record winners at Cheltenham, we saw Willie Mullins go out to Japan and do something that I don't think anybody ever thought could happen. We should be all pulling together in this sport.
Well, in the sport itself, we are all pulling together, and full marks to Willie. It was a great achievement with Blackstair Mountain. And, you know, he did his homework. He went and had a trial run and then went for the big one and pulled it off. And, of course, he had the right man on top as well. So, well done to them, and terrific achievement. But, I mean, I'm not saying that we can achieve to that level every day of the week, but wherever any of a dozen Irish trainers or more set their sights, it usually you know, they usually come home with a good result, and that is in jeopardy as long as the prize money is allowed to slip.
Now, speaking of pulling off the impossible, Willie obviously going to Japan was brilliant. Breeders' Cup successes and things like that. We saw Dermot obviously win a Melbourne Cup when it was unheard of, a similar achievement to what Willie's done. Is that on an ambition that you'd like to pull off? Is a Breeders' Cup win something like that, something that you dream about?
No, I wouldn't be dreaming about Breeders' Cups all that much, but it was a very serious achievement for Dermot to win 2 Melbourne Cups, and I'd say it'll be a long time until that's repeated. But Dermot had Australian connections, and I think he always had the will to get back down there and achieve at that level. So he set his mind to it and executed the plan to perfection. So as I said, it'll be a while before somebody emulates him in that regard. Aidan has had a great time at the Breeders' Cup. I wouldn't have the backup to focus on Breeders' Cups in the same way, because it's an arm and a leg to enter for the races, and then of course you have to travel there as well. So operating on a tight budget like I have to do, you know, it'll be difficult for me to go and win a race there.
You mentioned Aidan Dermot, we've John Ox, we've Kevin Prendergast, an awful lot of upcoming trainers. How competitive is it at the moment to win those big races and maybe challenge for the title? Is that something that you might do? I think you've been champion trainer 5 times. Is it something that may happen again?
I don't think it's 5 times, but anyway, it could happen again. But you know, I'd probably want to win the Guineas and the Derby and a few of the other, maybe the Champion Stakes. That's what secures it, you know. So that won't be easy, and it's not something I'd be losing a lot of sleep about. But obviously, you know, halfway through the season, you know, if you're $500,000 or more in front in prize money, well, then you have a good shot at it. But if it happens, it happens, and if it doesn't, as I said, I won't lose too much sleep about it. I need to achieve the best from every horse that I have in training, that whatever their capability is, that I can achieve with them at that level. And if I can do that and stay in business, keep my staff employed, and my staff hold on to me and give me a job, I'll be happy enough.
Now, 16 winners already this season. I don't know if it's a personal best, but it's a pretty good strike rate, and you had a 4-timer at the Cur on the opening day. You must be happy so far in the season. Yeah,
it's gone well so far. Obviously, very heavy ground on occasions can knock you out a bit, but I'd have to be happy with where we're at just now.
How important and how much of a big factor has Dundalk been to Irish flat racing? Has it been brought to the game what people thought it might?
It's a huge help because, you know, in the winter time, you know, every trainer has horses that have a preference for the better going, and the going is always consistent up there. There's a reasonable level of prize money, and it's a great outlet for those top of the ground horses that maybe you wouldn't get a run for either in the winter time or early spring. So it's a very important operation there.
Now, you've achieved an awful lot in the game. Any ambitions left? Anything?
I don't have any specific requirements. So immediately, of course, I'd like to win the 2,000 guineas this year, and if I can achieve that, I wouldn't mind winning the Irish version then in a couple of weeks after that. Maybe win another derby or two, and you know, if it happens, it happens. And as I said, if it doesn't, I won't beat myself up.
Well, we wish you the very best of luck for the season. Obviously, it'll be a great start if Dawn Approach can finally bag at 2,000 guineas, and we thank you for having us here today.
You're very welcome.
That's great.
Thanks, Jim.